My name is Benny Johnson. As some of you know, I've been struggling with addiction. However, I decided to change my life and went into recovery. I've started this podcast 90 Days Clean, and I want to take you along in my journey. What does lie ahead of me? Let me be frank, I do not know. Will I ever drink again? I do not know. This is how Stairway to Redemption was born. It is my search for answer in a real-time process of what is going to work for me. It is then my aspiration to help you figure out what's going to work for you. It is our journey together. Welcome to Stairway to Redemption. This week's guest is a very special one. Some of you might know him. I have in front of me DJ Hanzi, founder and resident DJ of the Reprieve Party Collective. For those who are not familiar with them, Reprieve is a group of like-minded people who organize sober parties in New York City. I've met Hanzi at last year New Year's Eve party, I believe. I had a great time. I would like to say that those parties are very inclusive, whether you're sober, curious, just don't feel like drinking that night. You're always welcome. The only thing is like no drugs, no booze at the parties. A lot of like mocktails and alternative, it's not like that doesn't mean that there's no drink at the party. All right, guys. So without you, I give you DJ Hanzi. How you doing today, DJ Hanzi?
Hey, thanks for having me. I know it's been a long journey to try and get this going with between you and me.
Yeah. Yes, it did. But I'm glad you finally, we finally be able to find time. And I understand people are on different schedules and being patient. I don't mind, it's just it is what it is. What's
Yeah,
important is that
I'm good.
we do this. So here at Stairway to Redemption, we like to start with the state of the mind address, which is basically a question, what is going on in your life? Something, lately, something deeper than I'm just doing fine.
I like that. I feel it's funny. I was just hanging out with my sister yesterday, and we were having coffee before we had dinner, and then went out to somewhere in the city, and we were just sitting in front of each other, and I was like, sometimes people ask me how I'm doing, and I'm just like, I'm good. Like there's no shoe that I'm waiting to drop. There's no underlying anxiety of something that I'm not looking forward to. There's no lies that I have to remember. There's no secrets that I'm not telling. I'm genuinely satisfied and content with life.
Mm.
I'm in a place where I feel a sense of purpose. I feel a sense of freedom. Well, I mean, for individual freedom, I don't know about, outside in the country. That's a whole other story. But I feel a sense of, I'm connected to people. I feel loved. I feel loving. Um, and, everyone has their ups and downs on whatever days for whatever reason, but that's just the human experience. So, I feel content. I feel full.
Oh. Yeah, that's so beautiful said because to go back to what you just said, feeling content, it's also what I'm looking for in life because I will say most people want to be happy, but happiness is fleeing, it comes and it goes. But contentment, is for me this something that is steady in your life. No matter what, adversity throws at you, you can always be content with the card that you've been dealt because you're doing the max how you say, are you doing you playing the best hand with the cards that you were dealt, basically. And contentment also is something that, I'm looking for. I think I'm heading toward it. There are like few things that, could be tweaked there and here, but like I really like that answer. Um
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, it's an ongoing journey.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's always something to look for. And it's funny, I always tell people, like, if they ask me, like, oh, how you doing? I'm like, I'm good, man. I'm usually good. And even when I'm not good, I'm good. You
Good.
know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Exactly. So, yeah, the second question is, tell us your story. So how did you experience, how come you came to create Reprieve, and also what is your experience with addiction? Can you tell us your story?
yeah, I mean, those two those two things, like my how I came to Reprieve and my experience with addiction, are very related. I mean, my story is, man, where do you start? It's a long one. It could be painful, but yeah, I mean, I'll say this. Today is July 4th as we record this. I don't know when it's going to
Yes.
air, but
Mm-hmm.
July 4th. July 6th will mark my 5-year anniversary free from drugs and alcohol.
Woo!
But thank you, thank you.
Yep, yep, yep.
But I've been struggling with addiction in, whatever form since the first time I went to rehab was 2008. And even before then, I had obviously gotten to a place where I was using drugs. Drugs were the first thing for me that I understood I had a problem with before I could even get to a place where I thought I had a problem with alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
I was always I used drugs and alcohol. At first, it was smoking weed and drinking as a way to escape. I came from a household where, like a lot of immigrant parents, my parents are from Haiti. Like a lot of immigrants, you're expected to be a doctor, lawyer, or engineer. I had good grades in high school, uh, and I got a scholarship to a very good school. But I really didn't want to be a doctor in my heart, right? It was a promise that I had made to myself because my biological father passed away when I was 12, and I remember at his funeral, I saw his casket. He had, an open face casket, and I was at his casket, and I told my father, my deceased father, Dad, I promise I will be a doctor for you. This is a promise I made when I was 12. So I felt like it was my duty as the eldest child, and as a way to make my family proud to be a doctor. And I had the grades, and I went in that direction, and then I went away to college on the scholarship, and I just wasn't in my heart, and I failed. I failed out of school, and as a way to not deal with the feeling of as a way to not deal with the feelings of inadequacy and failure, I just would escape with drugs. First it was weed, and weed was the best thing. It allowed me to not think about my problems and to be this like charismatic, fun guy. And the next, what was that, from 2000, the next whatever 10-15 years was just me kind of, I worked in restaurants, and restaurants are not very sober places.
Woohoo!
And
Nope.
nope. So it just went from one thing to the next, right? I just was always trying to escape myself, escape my sense of not being good enough, and that's not something that I found within myself. So I would find it outside, which was started with marijuana. Then I found cocaine. Then cocaine. I started doing pills like Percocets and OxyContin because that balanced out the cocaine. And then eventually it led to heroin, and heroin took me down very fast. There was a lot of legal things during that time, during the next few years, that forced me to stop. and forced me to get into like program. But I just thought, oh, this is something that I kind of that got away from me, but I don't really have like a problem. I'll just stop doing drugs.
Okay.
And that worked for a little. That worked for a while. For like 7 years, I didn't touch any hard drugs. I drank like a normal person drinks, and I smoked weed like a normal person, quote unquote, smokes weed for 7 years. During that time, though, I didn't really deal with the issues that were underlying, the issues
Yes.
of feeling the looking for something outside of myself. So eventually, when I got to a place where I was, working at more restaurants, and I was bartending, and then I started DJing, and DJing is very much not a sober environment.
Oh, hell
Then
yeah.
the yeah. So the opportunity came up again for harder drugs to be introduced to me via the environment I was in. And, it had been 7 years at that point since I had done anything hard. So I thought, you know what? That was something that was in my past. I won't let it happen again. And I'm not an addict. It was just a bad stretch of my life. So, yeah, why not? And, I did one little bump of cocaine. And within 2 months, I was back to shooting heroin. And this time was when I realized, like, oh, okay, there's something different here. It's not just a young 20-year-old being, partying too much. Like, now I'm 30 and things aren't happening. I'm not bouncing back more easily. And every time I would get into this place where I would find myself into, I mean, listen, it doesn't take a lot of heroin to realize that maybe you have a problem, right? It's just not something that people do.
Yeah.
So the next few years, I tried to stop. I knew that NA and AA were around, and I tried various things. Maybe if I find Buddhism, maybe if I start being healthier and do yoga and meditation, maybe if I go into this group or that group, or maybe if I get a better job, or whatever, all the different combinations of things that I tried to do that never really addressed the deep issues. And I would always go back to, I would stop doing heavy drugs for a while, then I would drink because I thought I don't have a drinking problem.
Yeah.
And so, but then eventually the drink would always lead me to the other things. And after doing this and trying to figure it out my own way for year after year, and then being in a marriage and getting, losing my now ex-wife, and more and more consequences as you get older and as you get deeper and deeper into addiction, you start to think, I don't have the solution, right? And I need to let go of that idea. The last time, finally, in 2018, when I finally went away again to rehab, because I had been to several rehabs and several IOPs and several programs. And finally, this time when I went away, I was just tired. I was just tired. Now there were like a very physical manifestations of my addiction. Like I had to go to the hospital to take care of some things. I was losing my sister, who I just spoke about earlier today. She was, kind of separating herself from me more. My mother was always there. She was unfortunately an enabler. I was able to like manipulate her and, like prey on her love for me to get what I needed from her. But even her, she was getting to a place where it was just too much on her. My father had already kind of put me outside and wasn't really dealing with me much. I was just miserable, and the job of being a drug and alcohol addict was just becoming too much. It's just such a job to get up every day and go to this place and buy this thing from this guy and hide from the cops and this and that, and you're scared and you're anxious and all that. And also, I'm a creative person, like besides DJing, I work in film and TV, and I wasn't creative. I wasn't writing anything. Even when I was DJing, I was like, I would play a song and go to the bathroom, and then like I would be at a club, play a song, go to the bathroom, the song would stop and it would just be silence, and then I would come out and just keep playing, and just horrible ways of being in everything. So this time when I finally went away to rehab, my roommate who's actually in a 12-step program, he was like, I've watched you for the last few years, struggle, and I haven't really said much because I believe that people have to kind of find their bottoms before, or else they won't change. He's like, listen, just you have to understand that the thing that's missing for you now, it's not a physical thing, it's not a mental thing, it's spiritual. You have nothing spiritual about you. And I'm about to go into rehab. I'm like, dude, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Like, leave me alone. I'm trying to get rid of this thing. But after rehab and coming back in, I for some reason that stuck to me, and I realized that there was nothing spiritual about me. I didn't understand that in order to find out what was troubling me inside, I had to look to a power greater than myself. And that's what this journey has been. I can look today. I can live with contentment because I understand that I'm not the ruler of the universe or even my own existence. So there's only so much I can do, and the only thing I control is my reaction to things. So it's like, little points along the way of my journey with addiction. DJing came in there, obviously, during that 7-year stint is when I started DJing, and that really accelerated my addiction. But when I came out of rehab and I was now in this place of like, okay, let me refigure out my life, I still love playing music. I love playing music. I think it's a beautiful, powerful, spiritual thing. I love dancing. And, I was going out sober now, dancing and trying to find these parties and going out with sober people. And we would go out till 4 or 5 in the morning. And I'm like, this is amazing. This is beautiful. Like there should be a space where people who are struggling can feel safe because so they don't have to go to a club or where there's just shots being poured and, somewhere in the corner doing cocaine. Like there should be a space where people can and really like have the club experience or a really nice dance floor without having to worry about that. And for a while, I would like talk to my other DJ friends, and I have some other DJ friends that are sober, and I would kind of mention it and hoping that they would be like, "Oh yeah, let's do it as a joint venture," because I was just scared of doing it by myself. But then eventually, one of my DJ friends was like, "Yeah, just do it." And I was like, "Yeah, I guess that's it, huh? I just gotta just do it." And that's how it came about. In 2019 was our first party, and there's a group of us that make Reprieve happen, and it's just been beautiful. It's been a really great experience.
Oh yeah, that's beautifully said. Like, I enjoy Reprieve, and your story is like beautiful and much too common, especially when you were like in the service industry world and also in the DJing world. And I'm gonna have some questions coming later about especially the DJing world coming later. But my first question after your story, which is amazing by the way, is when you started Reprieve, what were the obstacles that like, the roadblocks that you saw? Like, you said like one obviously was like you thought you had to do it with other people, but you did it. Your friend told him like, told you to, well, do it by yourself, build it from the ground up. People will follow. But what were other like obstacles when it comes, for example, to logistics and finding the space and the sponsors, because if you don't sell alcohol, how do you get money from it,
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, I will say this first. Yes, my friend told me to do it by myself, and I did come up with kind of the concept and started it. But from the very first party, there's always been other people involved.
Okay.
That have been part of the Reprieve party. So it's never, it's oh my God, I could never do it 100% by myself. But I guess I am the founder and kind of the leader. But yeah, and I love being in community, so it's very important for me to build this with other voices. But to speak of the logistics, yeah, you got it. You hit the nail on the head. It's very, very difficult to throw a party and make money to keep it going without selling alcohol. That's where most parties, most clubs, most
Mm-hmm.
restaurants make their money through alcohol sales. And I found that out very quickly. The first two parties, which was I did a party Black Friday in 2019, and then I did a party New Year's Eve 2019 going into 2020. I
Mm-hmm.
lost, I think, I lost I think I lost about $5,000. I wouldn't say lost. I was in the. I considered it an investment, but it is
Yeah.
also a learning experience. Yeah,
Yeah, let's
I
call it
put
an
my
investment for the future. Yeah.
exactly. And you realize, like, oh, okay. So at first I thought maybe we'll sell a lot of mocktails, and that will kind of, be the equivalent of what somebody would sell in alcohol. No, absolutely not. First of all, you can only drink what, two mocktails in a night. You're not going to drink four or five, six, and then buy some shots, right? And another thing is, I wanted to keep the price cheap as possible, because I know that nightlife in New York could be very expensive, and I know that people who are in recovery, especially early recovery, oftentimes don't have the means. So I wanted to keep it around $20-$25 to get in. I mean, I could have easily made the tickets $40 or $50 and made some money, but then it's like you're inviting a certain type of people, and I really wanted it to be accessible to everybody.
Mhm.
So what happened was basically we just kept losing money for a while. We lost money, and then you would adjust. Okay, well, the venue was too expensive because we couldn't. A lot of times when you're starting a party, you can collaborate with a venue, and they'll just take half the bar, and you throw your party for free. No one wanted to have a party with us, so I had to rent an actual space, like when you rent something for a wedding or when you rent something for an event. Those are expensive, especially for a nice one. So,
Mhm.
we would adjust the venue, and then we would adjust. We haven't adjusted the pricing that much. I think the low when we started it was 15, and now the highest is like 25 on New Year's Eve, but it stays, in that $20 range. Um, and then what has helped us is, along the way we've gotten investor sponsors. We've gotten other sober organizations who do have the means to kind of like collaborate with us, and they'll pay for half of the venue. Or we get a lot of drink sponsors that give us drinks for free, and then sometimes we give them away for free, sometimes we sell them just to make a little money, and then
Mhm.
the entry fee. But really, honestly, there's we've thrown parties for what, it's been almost 4 years now, and there's never been that much money made. It's really just breaking even, and which is my philosophy, is like, if I can pay my DJs, pay whoever is like providing a service, and break even, and then have enough, and then just be able to start another one, that's all I want. There's no money that has gone in my pocket since day one. I just do it as a service, really, for
Mhm.
people to have this space, which is, it's very important to me. And along the way, I do believe that as the brand grows, there will be more money like given to us that will allow me to kind of do more. But we're in that weird place now where we're trying to find that, and but I will still keep going.
That's great. And also I need to point out that like your idea of throwing parties on your block in front of you is very smart. I'm sure you don't rent the block, right? You just have to offer permit, and those are fun too. Like the block parties are pretty fun. Barbecue outside, people walk by, people with their strollers are walking by, dancing babies. That's pretty cool. That's that was very smart. When I saw it with my own eyes, I was like, yeah, like it doesn't have to be inside in some warehouse or like some expensive space. It could be just chilling outside. That part was, I think, was really smart, you know, like a block party, blocks over.
Yeah, yeah, and believe it or not, that was never the intention of how Reprieve was going to be. But COVID happened, and because of COVID, we did a lot of parties online. We were like very early to that. I had the idea on the first day when everything shut down. I was like on a Zoom meeting, and I was like, I wonder if I could do music on Zoom, right? Before I had seen anybody else do it. And so we started doing these online parties, which was great for a while. And then, people kind of got sick of the online thing, and I was hanging out on my friend's stoop in Brooklyn. like on a random day, and there were maybe like 20 people outside hanging out, and I was like, oh, I should just put my speakers on my stoop. Like where you see us throw the stoop party, that's my apartment.
Yeah.
And so I just did it that way, and that's honestly what made Reprieve grow even more. That's how a lot of people found out about us, because nobody was throwing parties, or very little, during the pandemic. And so I had amazing DJs who just wanted to play in front of like live people who are friends of mine, who were just like, man, I'll just rock out for free. Come on, invite me. So like it really grew the name during that time. And then after the pandemic, we kind of realized that, oh, this like outdoor Sunday vibe is more in line with what our people want, and so we want to continue that.
Yeah, yeah, that's funny that that's kind of weird and paradoxical that COVID helped you grow your brand, because COVID will usually shut down everything. That's funny. But yeah, next question. In an industry where, like you said, like drugging and drinking are standards, how are your approach for now gigs? Like, I do you DJs other parties outside of this? Like, you know, have you then do you always disclose your sobriety right away? Or did you find yourself ever turning like gigs down because of like the kind of atmosphere that will be at that party? What's your new approach now when you are called to DJ a party?
Yeah, that's a good question. I, I'm very, first of all, the DJ booth for me is kind of like a force field, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm the only one back there usually, and it's my own little space. So I don't feel like, yeah, sometimes there's people who are like, oh, let me get you a shot, but I'm just like, no, thank you. And then, I just drink a seltzer and lime and just enjoy the night.
Oh,
So I feel like, yes, I do DJ outside of, the Reprieve party. If the party is really like, I know that it's a drug party, like starting at 2 a.m., going to 8 a.m., it's just not my space. I'm probably not going to be DJing there.
yeah.
Or I'll go with another sober DJ, and we kind of just do our thing and watch people dance and then go. But that energy is also different. Like I'm not a fan anymore of just like the really, really drugged out parties.
Mhm.
I feel like there's, people do what they want, and there's fun parties where people drink, and there's not so fun parties where people drink. So yes, I do play a lot of, listen, I do events, I do personal events, I do corporate events, I do weddings once in a while, and
Mhm.
people drink. And I've been able to kind of wear my sobriety with pride. And, the first time someone offers, I'm like, no, no, thanks. I don't drink. And just,
Mhm.
they never ask any more questions. And I feel that if I approach that with confidence, then people just usually just leave me alone.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's when you mentioned like the other sober DJs, like how big is the sober DJ community? Just curious.
I think I'm not gonna name any names. I
Yeah.
feel like everyone's got their anonymity or whatever, but I think it's surprising. You'll be surprised to find how many people actually, because of the nature of DJing, right? It's easy to get into a place where you just overindulge, and then you
Mm-hmm.
find yourself in a place where you're like, I need to stop, and it's really taking away from how I'm able to do my thing. So there's a surprising amount of DJs, especially nowadays, because people are more open about it, that are just trying to at least drink less or not drink at all, or they're just out there kind of doing their thing. They're maybe a little older, I mean, like when I say older, 30s and up or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a good amount of people out there who are doing it and are just like, yeah, I don't need to drink. Same thing with actors, same thing with artists, same thing with musicians. There's a lot of people who are creatives who are
Yeah.
understanding that the thing they thought was stimulating their creativity is
Mm-hmm.
actually killing it, and so they're
Killing.
just embrace it.
Mm-hmm. Like, oh man, you gave me the perfect segue for this next question. When I got out of rehab, 3 months, sober, I went to a concert at the Brooklyn Mirage, to see a Purple Disco Machine. And it went well.
Oh yes.
I didn't drink. And in my concern when I got clean was that I was never going to reach the level of euphoria that I could reach with alcohol and drugs, right? But it's not true. I was happy there. I was, like I did reach a level that I thought I was never going to reach without the help of alcohol and drugs. And at one point during the concert, it hit me. I was kind of sad because I was like, wait, when did I need alcohol and drugs to reach that level in the first place? When did I lie to myself, that I needed to alcohol and drugs to reach that level in the first place? And, another sadder thing was every time when I was having a good time, right, without alcohol and drugs, and I always thought that, oh, now doing cocaine will even reach a level higher than what I am. So like I'm always chasing the dragon. There's always a theoretical like happiest place somewhere that I need to chase. And that's the lie I had to, figure out, to expose to myself, be like, man, this is not it. Like there's not like another euphoria level max, I don't know, level 10,000 or something. It is the happiest you can be. If you add drugs to it, it's just going to go downhill from it. And as a creative person, yourself, like you said it, first part, did you go through that process too when, you came out and you started DJing again? And second question, how did you, when did you come to term that alcohol and drugs were not, it was basically a lie, like that you were not going to live, it's not going to make you reach another level of euphoria or something like that?
Yeah. Oh man, first of all, I love the journey that you described because I had a very similar experiences, and it's a common thing, to answer the first part of your question, when did I experience that? There was two events soon, like early in my sobriety, that I came to terms and realized that, like, oh wow, I actually can reach this level of euphoria. There was one. It was actually a group of people. It was a group of people that had this like retreat. It was a sober retreat, and during that retreat, there was a night where there was a dance party, and everyone there was so happy and dancing and just crazy, wild, and just in this place of euphoria, like you said. And it was the first time I had experienced that, and I was like, "Oh wow, this is possible." And this was one of the reasons why I really believed that Reprieve could be a thing. And I said, "Oh, this is possible. Oh my God, like I feel amazing. I feel connected to people. I'm not trying to find, where's the next bag or, sneak into the bathroom or, like I was really connected. I was sweating. I was dancing the whole night and I was absolutely ecstatic." That was one. The second one was the first the first wedding that I DJ'd was for a friend of mine. And I was in this place where I wasn't comfortable yet DJing sober. So I had to tell myself, like, listen, you can't half-ass this. You have to just go. Go, like, nobody, like, you went through this horrible, very trying time in your life. Now you're in another place in your life and you just have to own it and be the most Hans you can be. And so at that wedding, I was emceeing and I was cracking jokes and I was, I took the mother-in-law and had her dancing and I was just really just being very confident in my happiness. And it was beautiful. It was a beautiful wedding and everyone was dancing and people like months later were like, man, that's the best wedding I've ever been to. So it was another experience where I realized like, wow, I don't need what I thought I needed, which was, let me get a drink to make me a little looser. Let me get another drink so I can crack some jokes.
Yeah.
Let me get a line so I can so I can be a little more confident. And now that goes into the second part of your question, is like, when do you realize that that this lie was being told? It's a lie that society has sold us for centuries, and continues to do so very much in a capitalist society that's trying to sell alcohol and trying to sell you this happiness, and you know when we're kids, we have so much fun, and there's not an ounce of alcohol or drugs, right?
True.
When you're very
Yep.
young,
Mm-hmm.
drugs and alcohol come into the picture, probably in your teens for some people, sometimes a little later. But, we never think, but it's just when we start to incorporate alcohol as this way to connect to joy, or to connect to relaxation or calmness or comfort, that we start to not only add it to our interactions, but we start to make it so that we replace any form of natural joy, any form of natural elation. We start to replace with these substances. Like I can't have a good day at work until I have my drink at the end of the night. That's those are the markers of a good time. And so we start to rely on them. You go on a date, you're a little nervous. Instead of working through those nerves and like finding this confidence and this ability to speak to somebody else without the substance, we rely on the alcohol. So we start to cheat and cheat and cheat and cheat. And, once you have the cheat code, then you rely on it, and that's it. It's like if you're cheating on your tests throughout your life, you're cheating on your math test always, then you're never going to get to a place where you're actually good at math naturally. You're never going to struggle through it, where you find this happiness of like, oh, I figured this out. I'm actually good at this, right? So that's just what alcohol and drugs have done. They've allowed us to cheat our way to this thing that we naturally have.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that one. Like, it allows us to cheat to like something that we know naturally have. And one question I have for you, still on the same topic. What would you tell anyone that comes out fresh off rehab, who is concerned, who has those doubts about themselves, that they're not, that sobriety means boredom? Like, what would you tell them? Because the two of us, we experience that level of euphoria that, we can get there. It's not as automatic. It's a work. It's a process to get there. It's not like you do a bump and then it works in 30 seconds, or alcohol, it works like in 10 minutes. No, you need to earn it. But I have friends and a lot of people who are like young in sobriety, their concern is like, once that they're sober, their life's going to be boring. So what message do you have to those people?
I'll say, first of all, there's nothing furthest from the truth to that. I get it. That's probably one of the things that kept me, that stopped me from doing drugs and drinking as soon as I should have. It kept me out there more, was the fact that I thought I was not going to have fun. I'll say this: you're not going to get it right away. You're just not. You're not going to be comfortable the first time. You're not going to be, the most talkative, and that's okay. That's okay. It's like it's something just like recovery, right? It's a learning process. It's a journey. Going out there into this new world is a journey, and it's okay. Like, which is why Reprieve, we didn't have it at the outdoor one, but if you were there for New Year's Eve, so we always have like a section that's very much like arts and crafts,
yes,
or something a little different, so that for the people who don't have the confidence right away to just be in the middle of the dance floor, but still want to be part of the experience, start slow. So we allow you to be there and maybe have a little conversation, and there's music in the background. And then if you feel a little bit, you dance for one song and you go back. Take your time, find your way, find the things that make you have fun. Go with people too. Like, it's always easier if you have one person or another two people that that make you feel a little more comfortable. And, it's a journey. It's a process. It's not going to happen overnight, just like you and I have experienced. But once you get there, it's worth it. And you will never lose that ability.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I remember there was like the photo booth center, the tables with the where you could make your own bracelets, I believe, or New Year's Eve, and the hats too, making like
Yeah.
the those crazy New Year's Eve hats and stuff. Um, but let's talk a little bit more about your sobriety. What are your tools to remain sober? I mean, obviously you have Reprieve, but are you part of like a AA program or any program at all?
I'll say, okay. I will say I am part of a recovery group, and
Uh-huh.
I'll keep it at that. Because this is how I believe that, right? There is no group that has a monopoly on recovery. There's a lot of different
True.
ways to get there, but I
Uh-huh.
do feel that community is important. It's a very
Yeah.
important part of that. So I'm not gonna advertise any one group over other groups because I feel like, everyone has their opinion and everyone has their journey, and I respect all of them. So yes, I'm part of a recovery group, and I have a community, which I think is very important. I think
Uh-huh.
that's one. So to understand that you are not alone, right? I think
Okay.
two uh, is a sense of you have to do the work, and what I mean by the work is you can get that in some of these groups. You can get that in therapy. You can get that in various ways.
In
But
IOP
there's
also.
yes, IOP and group
Mhm.
therapy, exactly. There's an amount of self reflection, and that's an honest look at ourselves, and a shameless and judge free look at ourselves. That needs to happen really in order to thrive in recovery. I think also what's important besides community and doing the work is kind of giving it back, right? I feel like Reprieve for me is part of that. Is once I have achieved this place where I feel good in my sobriety, my recovery, and I have found some things. It's part of it is to give back to other people who are still struggling or who come after me, right?
Uh-huh.
And that allows me to keep it fresh. That allows me to stay connected to people who are in pain, and it gives you a sense of purpose, right? I think that's something that I found in my recovery that I was missing before. Was I just didn't know, why am I here? What's the point? And now I've had people who so many times have told me, Hanzi, I never thought I would have fun in sobriety, and I came to your party and you changed my mind. And just that alone, one person gives me a sense of purpose, right? So find your sense of purpose. It doesn't have to be huge. It could just be, hugging someone
Yeah.
it gives someone a sense of purpose. And then also just getting out of my own way, understanding that I'm not the center of the universe and that there's a bigger plan or a bigger picture, and that the only thing I can control are how I react to things.
That's a very stoic way of thinking. Like, if you, I don't know if you're familiar with stoicism, but stoicism basically is the mantra, the way of thinking that there are things that happen to us that are in our control, others that are not in our control, but we're always master of the way we react to it. So when you say like I can always decide how to react to things that happen to me, like that speaks to me personally. One thing, when you said that community is very valuable, I notice, I mean, that's something that I notice in society, especially in American society. People tend to define themselves by the community they belong to, you know, like when you talk to people, somebody who is Italian, yeah, we are Italian, we have a big family, or like Puerto Rican, we do this, we do that. And once you are in addiction and you also plagued by that desire of belonging, I think that's what let me rephrase it. People are so afraid of being alone or disconnected from their community that they don't seem to know when that community is toxic to them. So for example, if you're in addiction, and you're trying to get yourself clean, but you still hang out with the people who go to the club all the time, there might still be good people with good hearts and good intention, but they cannot be your community, right? Can you tell somebody who is fresh in recovery that, hey man, recovery, sobriety is not going to be boring, but it cannot be the exact same way it was with your party pals. Like, you're going to have to make some changes. How do you explain that approach to somebody who is fresh in recovery?
I think, I think for that, sometimes the only way to really understand that is to experience it.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you, come on, my mom told me since I was 5, like, if you're going to hang out with those boys, you're going to do the wrong, and you don't believe it. I'm like, come on, these are good guys, I think once you get into a place where really you understand that there's life changes you have to make, and you see who sticks around and who doesn't, and for what reasons, then you understand really who your community is. If someone that I hung out with every weekend, and then on the 5th weekend, I'm like, I'm kind of depressed. I don't know. This alcohol and drugs is really messing me up. And they're kind of like, nah, whatever. Is that really your community? Or is that someone that just likes to party with, And that's also to say, even after sobriety, in sobriety, when you start to build relationships, even those relationships are not always going to be your whole community or the only people you hang out with or people you even like. Sometimes there are people you're like, you know what? Yes, you're not drinking or doing drugs, but you're doing all, and you don't have to be with them either.
Yeah.
There's very sick, very toxic people in everywhere, in all the communities, in activist communities, in artistic communities, and in recovery communities. So, as you move along, you start to kind of build your sense of worth, and you start to understand what works for you and what doesn't. And then you just, you pick and choose along the way.
Yeah, that's amazingly said. I mean, even in recovery, man, in my program, there are some people that, for some reason, I don't feel their energy. One thing I learned in recovery is to trust my gut feeling. Like, my gut feeling that's not influenced by any type of, substance or alcohol. Trust it, because especially for a person like me who is very, I'm an engineer, software engineer, who is very analytical. Oh, sometimes I will ignore my gut feeling because I didn't have empirical evidence that this person was toxic or was supposed to be, I was supposed to avoid them. So I will give them the benefit of the doubt and wait that they do something wrong for me to be like, you see, yeah, that person. But now I don't have to go to that gymnastic. I mean, I ask myself, Benny, what does it cost you to be cautious instead of just jumping in? And it doesn't cost me. If my gut feeling was wrong or, I was jaded by some past experience, but that person, end up being a great person that I want in my team, it's going to happen naturally. But I don't have to, push, to press the process, to burn the steps. Like, yeah, I don't have to burn the steps to go to there. Definitely.
Very good. Yeah, very well said. Very well said.
One thing I wanted to ask you that on my notes that I did on the board, were there ever incidents of people showing up intoxicated at your Reprieve party? If yes, how did you handle it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there have been. I'm a firm believer in Reprieve being a space for everyone. And just like most recovery programs, there's going to be people at times who are struggling, who want to be there and who had a drink that day or who are high, but they need the help, right? And they're seeking the help. So my doors are always open. However, if you're disruptive, then, we'll remove you. That hasn't had to happen yet. I have had people who I could tell had a couple drinks, but they were kind of like, they were nice and they were just dancing. They stayed in a corner. They weren't bothering anybody, but we kind of kept an eye on them. and then nothing happened. I've had people who straight up told me, they're like, listen, I still smoke weed. I'm going to go around the block and smoke, and then I'm going to come here and enjoy the party. And I was like, hey, listen, I can't stop you, but just don't bring that here. I don't want
Okay.
it to trigger anybody. And, so I can't stop anybody from doing what they're going to do, but I can control Reprieve to a certain extent. And also, listen, if you're drinking and doing drugs, and you come to a place where there's 100 people who are not drinking and doing drugs, and they're all talking about "I love you" and giving hugs, and you're not going to want to stay there. So, you're like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. It's not the same energy. Like you're not gonna
It's
vibe it.
not
You
the
go, yeah. Like most of the time, if it were
yeah.
me, I would be way too self-conscious and be like, you know what? Nah, like, let's go to a different space. But you're right on that. All right. Um, okay, so what's the game plan here? Where do you see how do you see Reprieve going? What's next for Reprieve?
That's a good question. I think we're kind of in a place where we are asking ourselves that.
Hmm?
You know, we grew pretty fast in the first few years. At least, I mean, not anyway. We grew at a pace that was good for us, but it also started to get into the we started to lose a lot of steam as far as everyone who is part of Reprieve has a day job and other things, and so we're not paying ourselves with Reprieve, so it takes a lot of time and energy to volunteer and do this. So and we also are very, very much like most of us are very like anti-capitalist. So we don't want to get to a place where Reprieve becomes this brand that's like, Coca-Cola is the sponsor, and we are at this venue, and it becomes too fake. Like, we love the energy and the love and the really the roots of Reprieve is based off of community, and we don't want to lose that. So as we grow, right, we want to be careful not to grow too fast and lose control of what that is, because I've seen it happen with dozens of parties where you go in the first year and you're like, this is amazing, and you go in year 5 and you're like, oh, this is not what this party used to be, right?
Yeah.
So that being said, we're still doing parties. We're gonna stick to like the outdoor thing now, where we are gonna have some sponsorships, and we're very careful of who we sponsor with and how we do our event.
Mhm.
The goal is to have it be a party that is more consistent, right? We want to try and get it year round, monthly. After that, we would like to travel with Reprieve, maybe do it at some other larger cities. There's a bunch of people in all sorts of other cities who are dying for us to be there. They've heard of Reprieve. They want us to throw a party there. So we're just trying to get the logistics together and really the money together to be able to do that.
Mhm.
And then my goal, my dream would be to have a brick and mortar, like, a building that has sober events all week. Like, one day it's like a poetry jam. The next day is a open mic hip hop event. And then on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, it would be the club nights. And then, we would have like a different theme every night. One day could be a hip hop night, another night could be a house night, and then another night could be like a mixed night. And then during the week, maybe it's like a place where you have workshops or any other recovery related events. So that would be the 5-10 year goal would be to have like a brick and mortar Reprieve space. And who knows, maybe one day there'll be like a Reprieve festival where we have Kendrick Lamar is the headliner, and all the vendors are alcohol free, and people come from around the world, and it's like this large Reprieve thing. I mean, I think it's possible.
Oh, that
So
would be awesome. Yeah. Oh man, I can see that.
yeah,
Imagine like Kendrick Lamar coming and singing "All Right." It's gonna be all right. Oh, what a fitting song, man, for like a recovery stake. All right. My last question before I give you the floor. If anyone would like to join Reprieve, how could they help the movement, even if they're not DJs? And you can plug also the social media and everything. Yeah.
yeah. So you could find um, most of the places you could, if you type in Reprieve Party, you'll find us on Instagram. We're at Reprieve Party. We're reprieveparty.com. Where else? TikTok. We just started a TikTok. Facebook, Reprieve Party. If you want to be part of Reprieve, there's a lot of different ways you can be part of it. We always need help with setting up and breaking down. We are going to need more help in the behind the scenes stuff, which means like just the running of an event, like just the not sexy business stuff that comes into play when this kind of thing. So yeah, we definitely need we will need some people to help with sponsorship stuff, with the logistics of running an event like that. And then, if you just show up, there's always space for people who don't have the money and who just want to help out, just to help us decorate or to bring your own. Maybe you're an artist and you want to help make the space look beautiful in some kind of way. There's a lot of ways that we can build this community. Yeah. Just reach out to us at our email is WE at reprieveparty.com.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so that was the end of the interview. Do you have any question for me or any comments, before we wrap this up?
No, man, we need to hang out more. That's my only comment.
Oh yeah, we should even hang out more outside of this. I'm definitely happy. I'm just a train away. I mean, Eli Dabar train away from you, so it doesn't take me long to come. But all right, guys, this was an amazing episode of Stairway to Redemption, and I will see you guys for the conclusion. All right, guys, that was it for episode number 30. Thanks to DJ Hanzi for this amazing episode, being a great guest. Yeah, as usual, guys, follow us on social media. And please, if you can, please support us on our Patreon page so I can bring such amazing episode again and consistently. And yeah, one more thing, I did all the links to the Reprieve Party for those who would like to support, to attend one. Just look at the links in the description. I'll also added the link to DJ Hanzi SoundCloud. He has some amazing sets in there, especially the disco one that I like a lot. And yeah, so guys, I will see you next week. Enjoy. Bye.